we have a couple more calls.
We do. Let's talk to Matt in Kentucky.
All right.
Matt, your life with Eric and V. What would you like to talk about today?
Well, I was going to talk about, years ago, I was talking to a guy, and it was about the afterlife, and I was trying to explain. He said, well, I don't believe in an afterlife and all this stuff. And I said, well, how come I always hear about the afterlife and not the before life,
Oh.
And I think over time, my mind started dwelling on that more and more. And so I told this one guy, I said, well, there was a time before I was born that I didn't exist, but here I am. I guess you could call this like the after, I don't know, the last 13 billion year life or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. But anyway, the odd thing I think is that everyone is stuck in their own brain. And like, say for example, I mean, because when I was a little kid, I remember running around the playground, and I would imagine weird things like trying to teleport my mind into someone else's mind. But even if you did that, you'd still be in their brain, and then whatever's going on in their brain is going to be going on in their brain. So like the way I see it now is like if you did that, you'd just be stuck in what they were thinking from the time they were a child. And then they'd be looking at you like you're you, and then it was just I don't know.
It's starting to get complex.
But anyway, it just
Twilight Zone here.
But there isn't really anything too complex about that, except I actually have I didn't have a fear of dying for the longest time. I've been an atheist for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have a fear of it, but I kind of have a fear of what happens after I die, and it's kind of weird. I can't explain it, but it has to do with the fact that life is born all the time. And of course, I definitely have empathy and for animals, especially mice. They get the raw. I think they're one of the rawest ends of the deal when it just comes to being a wild animal.
Oh, yeah.
And
this is
and
a
I'm thinking about like bugs, like I don't know, and insects and snakes and different mammals that feed them. And
Matt, where are we going? I've lost the thread.
Well, okay, so yeah, I was just saying that I hear a lot of people talk about an afterlife. They never talk about a before life. But the thing is there really isn't any more to it. It's just that when a person's born, their brain processes everything from the time they're born, and that's it. And then when they die, whatever is stored in that person's brain is gone. And
how about we just view it as consciousness?
Well, yeah, it is. You can view it as consciousness. I mean, that's what it is. But I mean, it's something that's hard to explain. It is something that my mind goes in kind of circles when I'm trying to talk about it.
If you want to do a really, really fun dive, the Mormons have some crazy views on it. I mean, I think that you're limited to the experience that you've had when it comes to that. But the Mormons believe that there was an entire war in the pre-existence, and that whatever side you took during the war impacts the life that you were born into. And for the longest time, at least until the 1970s, I believe, they thought that if you were on the wrong side of the pre-existence war, that you came out black. You're cursed with the skin of darkness.
Oh God!
Is what is specifically in the Book of Mormon.
Oh God!
Yeah, no, it's real cringe. But if people just kind of want to have something to think about on this, we absolutely, find ourselves so often confronted with the idea of our own non-existence. And I came to a realization not too long ago that I had that as a child and didn't realize what it was. And I think so many of us do, that a child, when you're a kid, you don't want to go to bed. Why don't you want to go to bed? It's scary. Why? Because that's time that you are just not there. It is unaccounted for time. And I mean, there are so many amazing philosophical conversations to be had from there.
A really good resource, Matt, if you're interested in these kinds of questions and following these questions to their most ridiculous conclusions, which is philosophy and so much fun, is if you go on the Great Courses Plus, app. The course, Big Questions of Philosophy by Dr. David Kyle Johnson, is amazing. David Kyle Johnson. He does an entire...
David Kyle Johnson, okay.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. I will link that below. I've actually had the pleasure of talking with him about Star Trek before, which was like a dream come true.
You did. You talked about it for weeks.
Yeah.
I did. But he's an amazing professor, philosopher, and he dives exactly into what you're talking about in a really cool way. So definitely a resource I'd check out.
I don't know if you all got what I was, the point, I guess the point I was really trying to try to get across was the idea of coming into, and it really isn't about as much of the consciousness of a person's mind as much as just coming into you. And then when you're dead, it's like you.
Can I read
like
you?
Just imagine like
sorry,
go ahead.
Can I read you what the call screener wrote? The question here on the call notes is: do the hosts believe that existence or the lack thereof is the same before birth and after death? Is that the question?
Oh well, okay. That was the only way. That was the only way that I could frame it. So that's fine.
Okay. I think that when you are, consciousness is part of having a functioning brain, and when you don't have a functioning brain, you don't have that. You don't have anything. I think that you are that emergent process of that functioning brain. When that goes away, so do all of the rest. Well, so does all the rest.
Yeah.
What about you, B?
Yeah. It's
I totally agree. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. It's like here's a dry piece of wood, and then we're going to wet that piece of wood, and while it is wet, it has the property of wetness, and then when it dries, it's not wet anymore. The wetness didn't go somewhere else, and it didn't exist beforehand. It's a property of a phenomenon that exists for as long as it exists, and then it doesn't exist anymore.
No, I totally understand, what consciousness is, and I understand that it's dependent on, a person's brain from the time you're born to the time you die. What I'm kind of thinking outside the box, and just for the fact that, animals are constantly being born with, mammals, especially higher order mammals, humans.
Matt,
but it gets complicated.
Yeah,
maybe a little too complex.
I don't have to keep going on about it. It's fine.
That's okay. I think that the idea of non-humans being conscious is not a argument we're going to fight you on.
We don't have to talk about non-humans.
So either way, Matt, thank you for calling in.
All right, you're welcome.
Hey,
bye-bye.
Matt, you're in Kentucky. Do we see you at the Ark Encounter?
I live very close to the Ark Encounter, and I live close to the.
Why didn't we?
What is that thing in Petersburg? Whatever that
creation
zoo
museum.
is. Yeah. The creation exhibit. I was waiting on that thing when they built it. Yeah.
So did you come and see us?
No, I didn't even know about you all.
Oh, dang.
Well, so
right.
you need to reach out to Tri-State Freethinkers. They're very active in your area, especially if you live there, and they're an absolute blast.
Absolutely the kind of people who would have this conversation all day over a beer. So
tell Chrissy we said hi.
Yeah, well, I think I called with something that would take a lot more than just talking over the phone. Because it's not something I could just, because what I told her, I was like, I couldn't say in 15 seconds. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Hopefully they can help, because those are fun conversations to have. But I think that unfortunately with the format that we have, you kind of got to do a lot of prep work to make sure that you've got the language to express it.
I should have had the prep work. Yeah.
That's okay. Matt, thank you for calling in.
Absolutely.
Okay. You're welcome. All right. You all have a good one.
You too.